History of America's secret religions and faiths. 24 shocking religious groups the U.S. government allowed to exist. What does it mean to be truly free? The First Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees every American the right to worship any god, philosophy, or cosmic force they choose. It is one of the most radical promises any government has ever made, and for nearly 250 years, that promise has attracted the most extraordinary collection of believers, seekers, and prophets on the planet. Scholars at the Library of Congress and the Bodleian Library at Oxford have documented over 1,500 distinct religious movements that have emerged or taken root on American soil since the nation's founding. This documentary explores 24 of the most remarkable, controversial, and forgotten of those movements, groups that tested the limits of freedom, and in some cases changed history forever. Some of these groups are inspiring, some are deeply disturbing, some ended in tragedy, some are still active today, quietly operating in American cities, towns, and farmlands right now as you watch. This is not the story of mainstream Christianity or Islam. This is the other America, the secret America, the America that prays to alien gods and goes to court demanding the right to erect satanic monuments. This is America's secret faiths. Category 1. UFO and extraterrestrial religions. Few ideas have gripped the American imagination more powerfully than the possibility that we are not alone in the universe. For some Americans, that idea did not stay an idea. It became a religion. Number 1. Heaven's Gate. Founded in 1974 by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles in California, this group combined Christianity with science fiction into a doctrine that ended in one of the most haunting tragedies in American history. Applewhite, a former music professor, taught that human bodies were temporary containers for alien souls, and that salvation required abandoning all earthly attachments, family, possessions, identity, everything.
The basic idea of Heaven's Gate was that you would chemically and biologically transform your body, becoming a next level alien, and then you would physically get on board the UFO, which would sail off into heaven.
On March 22, 1997, all 39 remaining members ingested phenobarbital. They were found in identical black tracksuits, purple shrouds over their bodies, each carrying $5.75. They believed a spaceship trailing the Hale-Bopp comet had arrived to take them home. As documented in encyclopedic collections at the British Library, Heaven's Gate remains the most organized mass suicide in American religious history.
The end of the age, I'm afraid I feel, is right upon us.
Number 2. Realism. Founded in France, but deeply rooted in the United States, realism teaches that all life on Earth was created by an advanced alien civilization called the Elohim, beings ancient humans mistook for gods. In 2003, a Raelian company stunned the world by announcing the birth of the first cloned human baby. The claim was never scientifically verified. Raelians don't just talk about aliens, they actively prepare for them. Their ultimate goal is to build an official embassy on Earth, to welcome our extraterrestrial creators, the Elohim, back to our planet. Followers practice sensual meditation to awaken their minds, advocate for absolute sexual freedom, and promote scientific advancement, including cloning, as a path to physical immortality. To officially join, members undergo transmission of the cellular plan, a baptism-like ritual where a leader touches their forehead to transmit their unique genetic code directly to the alien supercomputers. Academic records at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France document the movement's global expansion in detail. Number 3. Aetherius Society. Founded in England, but deeply popular in America, this society teaches that cosmic beings from other planets transmit spiritual energy to Earth. Members believe Jesus was from Venus, and the Buddha came from Saturn. For the Aetherius Society, prayer is a physical energy. Followers practice Operation Starlight, climbing designated holy mountains around the world to charge them with spiritual power. During global crises, members gather to channel this positive cosmic energy through their hands, storing it in special spiritual energy batteries to be released when the world needs it most. They also practice dynamic yoga, observe cosmic transmission days, when alien masters speak, and look forward to the arrival of a next master, who will arrive in a flying saucer. The National Diet Library of Japan holds comparative religious studies, examining the Aetherius Society alongside other post-war new religious movements, confirming its global reach and enduring influence across multiple continents and decades. Category 2. Satanic and occult movements. Perhaps no category of American religion is more misunderstood or more deliberately provocative than the satanic and occult movements that emerged primarily in the 20th century across the United States. Number 4. Church of Satan. On April 30th, 1966, Walpurgis night, Anton LaVey shaved his head, donned a black robe, and declared the founding of the Church of Satan in San Francisco. LaVey had zero interest in literally worshiping a red devil. His was a philosophy of radical individualism and self-worship. Satan was a symbol of freedom from the herd. The Satanic Bible became one of America's best-selling religious texts. While Anton LaVey rejected the supernatural, he knew humans crave drama. He designed rituals not to worship a literal devil, but as a form of psychological release to vent repressed emotions. In a theatrical, candlelit setting, practitioners use psychodrama divided into 3 main categories: compassion rituals to help loved ones, destruction rituals to curse enemies, and sex rituals to fulfill desire. Followers are urged to indulge in their natural desires, celebrate the self as their own god, and treat their birthdays as the highest holy holiday of the year.
Everything in the world, it's been said, is a sort of carny, sort of a con, sort of a scam, sort of an operation where one person's trying to put something over on someone else. In the words of the once popular song, it's a Barnum and Bailey world. And any accusations that have been leveled at me for being a con artist or a charlatan, I can only say I'm no more, no less than any of the people out there, given the opportunity, would be. My background in circus and carnival work has served me well.
The Bavarian State Library in Munich holds early German language critical studies of LaVey's movement as part of broader research into post-war occultism in the West. confirming its serious academic footprint beyond American borders. Number 5. The Satanic Temple. Do not confuse these two groups. The group, founded in 2013 in Salem, Massachusetts, the Satanic Temple is atheist. Its members use Satan purely as a symbol of rational inquiry and resistance to tyranny. Their weapon is the law. When Christians succeed in placing monuments on public property, the Satanic Temple demands equal access. They erected a bronze Baphomet statue in Arkansas. They have filed lawsuits defending abortion rights as a religious ritual. The Austrian National Library in Vienna holds European legal studies on American church-state separation cases that include the Satanic Temple's landmark litigation, a testament to just how far this courtroom religion has reached internationally. Number 6. Temple of Set. In 1975, Michael Aquino, a U.S. Army psychological operations officer, left the Church of Satan after claiming the Egyptian god Set appeared to him, and dictated an entirely new sacred scripture. Unlike LaVey's atheistic philosophy, Aquino believed Set was a real, existing deity, the first individual consciousness in the universe.
The darkness awakens. Heed the call of the shadows.
Unlike atheistic Satanists, members of the Temple of Set practice greater black magic. This is a highly individualized ritual designed to alter the practitioner's own universe and expand their consciousness. Their core practice revolves around the concept of Zeeper, an Egyptian term meaning to come into being, or self-deification. Initiates use solitary meditation, philosophy, and study to actively evolve their minds. They also gather in local groups called pylons to share research and perform formal group ceremonies, all aimed at preserving and strengthening the individual human soul. The German National Library holds records of Aquino's documented military career alongside research into the Temple of Set. Number 7. Thelema. Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. These words by Aleister Crowley found their most dedicated American disciple in Jack Parsons, one of the founding fathers of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Parsons performed thelemic sex magic rituals in the California desert, while simultaneously developing the rocket fuel that helped send humanity into space. Today, thelemic lodges operate in dozens of American cities. The Bodleian Library at Oxford holds Crowley's original correspondence. Category 3. Christian offshoots and millenarian movements. America's Christian tradition has proven uniquely fertile ground for radical reinterpretation. Some of the country's most dramatic religious events came not from foreign faiths, but from homegrown readings of the Bible, pushed to their most extreme conclusions. Number 8. Branch Davidians. They began as a quiet Seventh-day Adventist splinter group in the 1950s. By the late 1980s, a charismatic 33-year-old Texan named David Koresh had seized control, claiming to be the final prophet of Revelation. Koresh stockpiled weapons and claimed divine authority over the lives and bodies of his followers. On February 28, 1993, federal agents raided the compound near Waco, Texas. The 51-day standoff ended in fire, killing 76 people, including 25 children. Congressional records documenting the Waco hearings are permanently preserved in the Library of Congress collections in Washington. one of the most extensively archived religious tragedies in the history of the United States government. Number 9. People's Temple. Jim Jones built one of America's most racially integrated churches on a message of equality and social justice. Behind closed doors, he was addicted to drugs and convinced the government was hunting him down. He moved his congregation to the jungles of Guyana and built Jonestown. On November 18, 1978, after ordering the murder of a visiting U.S. congressman, Jones commanded his followers to drink cyanide-laced punch. 918 people died. It was the largest single mass murder-suicide in history, until September 11, 2001. The California State Archives, cross-referenced in Library of Congress holdings, preserve thousands of Jonestown audio recordings, letters, and documents for future generations. Number 10. The Family International. Founded in 1968 by David Berg in Huntington Beach, California, the Family International began as an apocalyptic Christian sect, targeting counterculture youth. Originally called the Children of God, they fused strict biblical prophecy with free love. Their core belief was built around the law of love, a radical doctrine, teaching that Jesus' message of love bypassed all conventional moral laws and mainstream societal rules. Viewing the outside world as entirely corrupt, they abandoned traditional family units to live communally, eventually drawing severe global controversy and legal scrutiny for their extreme sexual practices. Its founder, David Berg, developed doctrines involving sexual recruitment and deeply controversial practices. Criminal investigations were launched across multiple countries. Academic studies held at the Berlin State Library document the movement's controversial European expansion in extensive detail. Number 11. The 12 Tribes. Founded in Tennessee in the 1970s, they live in communal settlements, run organic businesses, including the well-known Yellow Deli cafes, and believe they are restoring the original Christian church, described in Acts. However, investigators and former members have documented authoritarian control, racial teachings, and systematic corporal punishment of children. Authorities in Germany, France, and the United States have raided their communities multiple times over serious child welfare concerns. Category 4. Eastern and Syncretic Movements. The cultural earthquake of the 1960s threw open America's spiritual doors to traditions from India, Japan to Tibet and the ancient Near East, and in the process created entirely new hybrid religions on American soil. Number 12. ISKCON, Hare Krishna. ISKCON stands for the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a monotheistic branch of Hinduism rooted in centuries-old traditions, but adapted for the Western world in 1965. When Prabhupada arrived in New York City in 1965 with 40 rupees and a bag of books, few could have predicted his orange-robed followers would soon fill every major American city with chanting. At its core, the movement teaches that the ultimate reality is a personal, loving God named Krishna, and that the highest goal of human life is to reawaken our dormant spiritual love for Him through devotion. They believe material world attachments keep the soul trapped in a cycle of reincarnation, and true liberation comes by dedicating every thought, action, and breath to the service of the divine. Today, ISKCON operates over 600 centers worldwide and runs the world's largest vegetarian food relief program. Vatican Apostolic Library collections include theological comparative studies between ISKCON mysticism and Catholic contemplative tradition, a remarkable cross-faith academic dialogue. Number 13. Transcendental meditation. Transcendental meditation, or TM, is a specific form of silent, mantra-based meditation derived from the ancient Vedic tradition of India and introduced to the West in the late 1950s by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Rather than a religion involving worship or deity devotion, its philosophy defines it as a natural, effortless mental technique designed to let the mind settle inward until it reaches a state of pure, unrestricted awareness. The movement teaches that regular practice unlocks the brain's full potential, dissolves deep-rooted stress, and creates a state of deep rest that naturally promotes both interpersonal peace and global harmony. When the Beatles visited Maharishi Mahesh Yogi in India in 1968, TM became a global phenomenon overnight. Today, it has been taught to over 6 million people and is used by the US military. Research into TM's neurological effects has been cited in academic collections at both the Bavarian State Library in Munich and Harvard University. Evidence that a movement born from 1960s counterculture has earned serious mainstream scientific credibility. Number 14. Eckankar. Founded in Las Vegas in 1965, Eckankar teaches that the human soul can travel to higher planes of consciousness through guided out-of-body experiences called soul travel, drawing from Sikhism and Tibetan Buddhist traditions. Today, Eckankar's world headquarters sits on a 174-acre campus in Minnesota. It is officially recognized by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs as a religion. Records held in the National Archives connected to the Library of Congress system. Category 5. Science, self-help, and hybrid religions. In a nation that worships both God and technology, it was perhaps inevitable that some American religious movements would fuse the language of science with the deep structures of organized faith and build empires doing it. Number 15. Church of Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard published Dianetics in 1950, selling over 100,000 copies in its first year. The book proposed that the mind records every trauma as an engram that could be cleared through a process called auditing. In 1954, L. Ron Hubbard declared it a religion. At advanced levels, initiates learn of Xenu, a galactic tyrant, who 75 million years ago destroyed billions of beings on Earth. And these billions of beings' trapped souls now cling to living humans, causing psychological suffering. The IRS granted Scientology tax-exempt status in 1993, one of the most controversial government decisions in American religious history. Extensive documentation of this legal battle exists in the Library of Congress Legal Affairs collections in Washington, D.C. Number 16. Unification Church. Sun Myung Moon brought his movement from South Korea to the United States in the 1970s, teaching that Jesus had failed his mission, and that Moon himself was destined to complete it as the true father. Mass weddings became their signature. At one event in 1995, Moon blessed 360,000 couples simultaneously via satellite. In 2022, the church returned to global headlines when the assassin of Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe cited the church as his motive. Materials on the Unification Church are held in both the Library of Congress and the Austrian National Library's collection on new religious movements in Vienna, reflecting just how deeply this Korean-born church penetrated Western political and cultural life. Category 6. Black nationalist and indigenous-linked faiths. Some of the most uniquely American religious movements were forged directly in the fire of racial inequality, drawing on Islamic, Hebrew, and African traditions to construct powerful new identities, or communities that mainstream religion had long excluded or ignored. Number 17. Nation of Islam, NOI. Founded in Detroit in 1930, the Nation of Islam, by Wallace Fard Muhammad, taught that black people were the original humans of Earth, and that white people had been created by a mad scientist named Yaqub 6,000 years ago. Despite its controversial theology, the Nation of Islam's social programs had undeniable impact. Malcolm X was its most famous minister. Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, joined the Nation of Islam, NOI, in the early 1960s. The Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, connected to Library of Congress collections, holds the definitive archive of its history. Number 18. 5 Percenters. In 1964, Clarence 13X left the Nation of Islam and founded the 5% Nation in Harlem, teaching that 85% of humanity are unenlightened sheep, 10% are corrupt rulers, and only 5% know the truth. That truth, in 5%er theology, is that the black man is God. Their influence on hip-hop is immeasurable. Rakim, Wu-Tang Clan, Nas, Jay-Z, all embedded 5%er language directly into their lyrics. The 5% Nation rejects traditional religious rituals, choosing instead parliaments, communal gatherings, held in street spots, or parks, where members debate philosophy, mathematics, and current events. Their core practice revolves around mastering the supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet, a system that assigns deep spiritual keys to numbers and letters to decode hidden universal truths. Members also practice strict dietary rules, avoiding pork and alcohol, and emphasize passing down knowledge through spoken word cipher circles, a lyrical tradition that heavily influenced early hip-hop culture. Studies are held at the British Library. Number 19. Moorish Science Temple. In 1913, Noble Drew Ali founded this movement in Newark, New Jersey, teaching that African Americans were not Negroes, but Moorish Americans, descendants of ancient Moroccan civilization, with a proud Islamic heritage. He issued his followers Moorish identity cards and urged them to reclaim their true names. Scholars whose work is cataloged in the Bodleian Library's African American Studies collections consider this a foundational moment in Black American religious nationalism. Number 20. Nation of Yahweh. Founded in Miami in 1979 by Hulon Mitchell Jr., who called himself Yahweh Ben Yahweh. The group taught that Black Americans were the true Israelites, and that Mitchell himself was the literal Son of God. The Nation of Yahweh instituted strict, highly visible communal rules. Members dressed entirely in flowing white robes and wore white turbans to symbolize their spiritual purity and distinct cultural identity. Their core practices revolved around strict dietary laws, mandatory regular prayer services, and heavy community labor to build and run their massive real estate and business empire called the Temple of Love. At its peak, the group controlled property worth over $250 million. At the inner circle level, a secret fanatical group known as the Death Angels allegedly carried out violent retribution and executions against critics, leading to major federal conspiracy convictions against the leadership. Mitchell was convicted in 1992 of conspiracy to commit murder. The Southern Poverty Law Center, cross-referenced in Library of Congress civil rights collections, classifies it as a Black supremacist hate group. Number 21, Nuwaubian Nation. Founded in Brooklyn. In the 1960s, Dwight York eventually built Egyptian pyramids and Sphinx statues on 476 acres in rural Georgia, blending Egyptian religion, UFO beliefs, and Black empowerment into an eclectic personal theology. In 2004, York was sentenced to 135 years in federal prison after conviction on child molestation charges involving over 100 victims. The Nuwaubian Nation took ritualistic lifestyle to an extreme by building a massive ancient Egyptian-themed compound called Tamari in Georgia, complete with towering pyramids and sphinxes. Followers wore elaborate Egyptian pharaonic clothing during ceremonies, studied a complex, constantly shifting linguistic code created by their leader, and participated in large-scale theatrical community pageants. The group maintained an insular, highly controlled social structure where members surrendered individual autonomy to build the compound, which was ultimately demolished following the leader's federal conviction. The Nuwaubian Nation is documented in academic archives at Penn State University's Religion Data Collections. Category 7. Nature, Pagan, and Parody Faiths. Not every American alternative religion was born from trauma, inequality, or a revelation in a spaceship. Some were born from joy, creativity, feminism, and a deep desire to reconnect with something older than Christianity, older even than Rome. Number 22. Wicca. Though formalized in England, Wicca found its largest following in America. Today, millions of Americans identify as Wiccan. In 2007, the U.S. military officially recognized Wicca, the pentacle, was approved as a gravestone symbol for fallen soldiers. Wiccan practice revolves around the changing seasons and cycles of nature. Followers celebrate 8 major holidays called Sabbats, which mark astronomical points like solstices and equinoxes. Rituals are often performed outdoors inside a caste sacred circle, where practitioners invoke the elements which are earth, air, fire, and water, alongside a central goddess and god. They practice magic, guided by a core ethical law, and it harm none, do what ye will, meaning they can perform rituals for healing or personal growth, as long as it brings no harm to others. That decision is documented in National Archives records, accessible through the Library of Congress, confirming that a nature-based goddess religion, once dismissed as witchcraft, now has the same legal standing in America as Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Number 23, Church of All Worlds. Founded in 1962 and partly inspired by a Robert Heinlein science fiction novel, it was one of the first neo-pagan organizations to receive official U.S. tax exemption. Founded by Oberon Zell Ravenheart, the Church of All Worlds is a pioneering neo-pagan earth religion that was heavily inspired by Robert Heinlein's sci-fi novel, Stranger in a Strange Land. Its philosophy centers on the concept of grokking, deeply merging with and understanding another being, and the living network of nature, popularizing the Gaia hypothesis that treats the Earth as a single living organism. They coined the word polyamory. They champion radical inclusivity, personal divinity expressed through the phrase, "Thou art God," and progressive relationship models, famously coining the word polyamory decades before it entered mainstream culture. Church of All Worlds followers practice a nature-based spirituality focused on celebrating the deep interconnectedness of all living things, a concept they call grokking. Their rituals center around seasonal celebrations, environmental activism, and formal water-sharing ceremonies taken directly from science fiction, used to create lifelong bonds of sacred friendship. They embrace alternative family structures, practice open relationship models, and honor the divine spark within every individual, greeting each other with the sacred phrase, "Thou art God." Number 24, Church of the Subgenius. Founded in Dallas in 1979, this is simultaneously a parody religion and a genuine artistic movement. Members worship a fictional insurance salesman named J.R. Bob Dobbs and pursue a philosophy called slack. The group has attracted artists, academics, and countercultural figures for over 40 years. The Church of the Subgenius expresses its faith through high-energy, satirical performance art. Their main gatherings are called devivals, which mimic the style of tent revival preaching, but feature absurdist rants against societal conformity. Followers are told to actively avoid hard work. Instead, their ultimate spiritual practice is pulling slack, a state of effortless, relaxed prosperity where they manipulate the system to do absolutely nothing. They celebrate X Day every July 5th, gathering to await a fleet of flying saucers from Planet X. When the ships fail to arrive, the group simply throws a massive party and pushes the date back to the following year. Their absurdist pamphlets are held in American University special collections as examples of late 20th century outsider art, proof that even comedy can become sacred. So that was the 24 movements, 24 cults, 24 strange attempts to answer the oldest questions humanity has ever asked. Why are we here? And what happens when we die? From the mass suicide of Heaven's Gate to the courtroom battles of the Satanic Temple, from the cosmic transmissions of the Aetherius Society to the Harlem street corners, where the 5%ers were rewriting the definition of God. From Waco to Jonestown to the pyramids of rural Georgia, all of it happened in America. What unites all 24 of these movements, strange cults, and faiths across their enormous differences is a single, distinctly American conviction that no authority on earth has the right to tell you what to believe. That conviction produced the sublime and the horrifying in equal measure. It produced con men and saints, prophecies and massacres, liberation and exploitation. The United States will keep producing new faiths, new prophets. Religious freedom is still running its most radical experiment. And America is still the laboratory. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Like what you saw? Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to never miss a story.